Awesome, everybody. Welcome back. We have practicing attorney, Blissness School founder, Melissa Jaffe. Hey, Melissa.
Hey, thank you so much for having me.
Thanks for gracing us with your time today. We appreciate you. And I love reading through your Blissness School website. It's actually really interesting, you being a practicing attorney and have your Blissness School. Tell us a little bit about your journey of why you've transitioned into slowly into the Blissness School. And, I think it's important that people really do see the behind the scene or hear our journey when we go through the hard stuff, because on social media sometimes we only show the victory, right? But the truth of the matter is that we have a lot of challenges. We go through challenges, and as a mom, there's layers upon layers upon layers of challenges. So I'll just let you take over. You start wherever you want in your journey, and then I'll write down some additional questions based on what you tell us.
Yeah, thank you so much. I mean, in some ways, I feel like this has been like the longest birth ever, right? Because I was 35. I had a great, thriving practice. I was licensed in 3 states. I love intellectual property. I love business. It just is a very natural fit for me. A lot of people don't like reading contracts. I love reading contracts. Wow. I'm the one that reads all the terms and conditions, and I'm like, oh, I don't like the way that was written. So I'm a big nerd, right? And I had this whole story of who I am, and then I got pregnant, and I was expecting my boyfriend to, pop the question. I had this vision of like, okay, this is what the rest of my life is going to look like. This was an unplanned pregnancy, very divine and beautiful, but kind of a surprise. And the opposite happened. My boyfriend broke up with me. He was like allergic to fatherhood. He was. Every time I tried to bring it up or like slip him a book, he would get sick and we couldn't talk. He wasn't available. So, and it was really hard because then I took on this story of like single mom. And there was a lot of shame in that game. And, my parents were like, I was licensed in 3 states as a practicing attorney. Nothing had really changed other than I got pregnant. And my parents were like, why don't you move back home and like go in the basement? And I was like, wow. I'm a basement dweller now. Like, it was a really hard space. And so I felt a lot of pressure. My dad was really putting pressure on me. Like, he thought I needed security. So it was like encouraging me to go interview for jobs. So here I am, 8 months pregnant, clearly pregnant, no ring on my finger, interviewing for jobs. It was like kind of like surreal. And people would stop the interview and be like, what's going on? And I'd start, I'm pregnant and hormonal, and start crying and I don't know. And that was really the impetus for Blissness School, because I had to get quiet and I had to really like reflect, who am I? And like, what am I doing here? I knew I wanted to be a mom, even though I had no idea what that really meant at all.
None of us do.
Right? I mean, I'd never been around a child. I never held a child. I was so interested in the birth process that I like researched everything about birth. But then when I had this baby, I was like, oh yeah, I forgot about like mothering, that thing. But when I had those quiet couple of months, I realized, okay, I'm really committed to sharing the law with people and breaking it down in a way that's not so overwhelming. Because when somebody tries to do something new, especially like, I want to give so many mad props to anybody who is willing to take a step to that scary place of like, I'm going to do something different. I'm going to do a business, but like, we don't know. There's nothing that really teaches you how to do a business. It's all very heady. There's a lot of rules. accounting, taxation, employment law, regulations, import, export. Like it's overwhelming. What was that?
So many compliance stuff.
Compliance. Yeah. I mean, it's really complicated. So I wanted to provide that as a service for people who really kind of couldn't afford my services as an attorney. And I was noticing that when I would provide that, like it was free and people weren't really valuing what I was giving them. So I was searching for a time. I made a list, like what's the most important thing to me? Like helping others, empowering others, helping to share the law, but not make it so complicated, right? It's like when you first learn the rules of, a new card game, it can feel very complicated until you get it. And then it's fun because you get the strategy and you understand how it works. I just wanted a way to share that information. And so Blissness School was born because at the same time that I was kind of making it, I was also deeply entrenched in my own self-development and meditating and doing a lot of yoga and learning from other people. And I realized, like you said, and like you obviously embody, challenges come and go, whether it's motherhood or business or relationships, but it's how you meet yourself in those moments that you can really learn and grow and show others and share others with others, like the possibility of joy.
Yep.
Which is all of our birthrights. We have a culture that tells you, like, open up any magazine, like you're not good enough, you're not smart enough, you're not white enough, you're not dark enough, you're not whatever. But the fact is, like, you're perfect. And I wanted to just have a place to cultivate and really reinforce you're perfect, you're wonderful, learn how to be happy and learn how to kill it in business if you want to, because we have people that since I started to talk about this have come to me and said, well, I can help teach about how to run an effective capital campaign for someone who starts a 501c3. Or I can teach women about financial management because financial investing from a female perspective is a little bit more complicated because quite frankly, we're nurturers for our children, for our partners, and then for our parents. And so there's a lot more dynamic than just for many men, quite frankly. And I love watching what's happening right now with the acknowledgement, like in so many ways of women's empowerment and kind of like, okay, well, we are doing a lot. And so being like a mother hustler, every mom is like, there's so much.
I know it is our time. It's time to shine. I love one of my friends saying it's time to make the world tremble with women and moms, and because we have so much to give. And I guess with also the digital world and having access to an audience, right? Immediately without even becoming a celebrity is, and a lot of these women that's been waiting for it, because there's women that go for it. And there's women that go for it in a very different way, but they're not so vocal about it. And when you have a platform like YouTube, Instagram, podcast platform, you're able to voice out your opinion about things has become like a validation for those women that are quiet verbally or afraid to be judged. And like, you go girl, right? So they've been waiting for that.
For us as women and for our daughters and all daughters, you know what you see. And so the more of us that can vocalize and express that we really can do anything we want to, and it's not just relegated to certain people that are put in front of mass media through like movies or daily talk shows. Like, it really isn't. It's like we're all heroes in our own sheroes, right? Whatever, in our own right. And the more that those stories can become available everyone's being pulled along. So yes, I completely agree with you. I think now is a wonderful time. I'm very grateful to be here right now.
So how old were you when you got pregnant?
I was 35. I was a proper adult.
Wow.
Yeah.
And that's, 35 is, like you said, it's a proper adult. And having your father sort of, well, you're kind of like dad's little girl, forever, always, forever. And I interviewed a woman yesterday that was pregnant at 16. I mean, I can only imagine. I was also proper adult. So that's a little bit on the 35 is a little bit on the later side of a woman's life, but I'm seeing more and more women. My sister just probably next month, let's see, she's turning 36 and she still doesn't have a baby. And she wants at least one, but I said, you better do it soon.
It can happen at any time, I mean, it's really awesome. I know women who just had their first child and at 43, which is great. There's so much transition that I wasn't totally prepared for. I was so humbled by that experience, thank goodness. And my daughter has taught me so much about life. And really, I'd never known a single mom. I just hadn't. It wasn't something that was in my reality, and that's so sheltered, right? I mean, and here I was there. I was in that, framework. And there were a lot of perceptions being thrown at me, which was wonderful to experience. I think everybody should know what it's like to feel like a minority or to feel like an other or to have some sort of stigma attached to you because we're all doing the best we can in all of our different ways. And to really feel it is different from just thinking about it. There's a difference. So my daughter has been my biggest blessing. And it became increasingly more difficult to fit in with, the law is really male dominated. It is. It's created by white men. I'll just be straight. And a lot of the language is very antiquated. And it's really, in my opinion, meant to be separate. It's meant to, it's designed in a way that a lot of people won't acknowledge or own, but after being in it, witnessing litigation, witnessing how it actually works through the family court system, it's very male-centric. And after becoming a single mom and going through some of these experiences, I couldn't quite embrace it anymore. And I needed to create something where I could still practice and share the law that I love. It's deeply spiritual to me. And also be who I am as a woman and share it with anyone, right? At an affordable rate where it's not like, oh, it's $1,000 to talk to me. And then after we have our conversation, you have no idea what I said. It's kind of a game.
I love that about you because, so I don't know if you've looked at my profile. My day job is I provide legal services through a platform that allows people to have a subscription plan.
Yep.
And everything that you've said, I'm like, yeah, nobody reads their contract. And if they did, and the reason that they don't read their contract, it's because it's so complicated and it's not English. So I love what you're doing is that, you pay me $1,000, you didn't even know what I said.
I mean, it's true. I mean, it was kind of heartbreaking because I'm an intellectual property attorney. And in a way that's deeply, deeply spiritual because the idea is that individual human beings have the potential to be struck with inspiration. It used to be called divine inspiration when the church was the predominant,
Yeah.
view. Now it's called a download because we have the internet, you know, but the idea is that something that is beyond human, because it can be so big and complicated and can happen in a second, right? The inspiration. As humans, we get to make that. So we get to invest our time and our efforts and our money into making, you know, this thing called a handheld mobile device, or, you know, like a different kind of Post-it note, right? Like Post-it notes didn't exist before. And so, but we get to make it reality. And that is basically what copyright law is. It's taking the idea and making it into manifest, tangible form, whether it's a recording or a photograph. And so that's what is making society move forward, period. And that's not just for white men. That is for everyone. And quite frankly, women in history have been acknowledged as more open or receptive. So it's really, really cool for women, especially moms who have like given birth, like actually made a human being, like the ultimate manifestation.
Oh my gosh, yes, I know.
So yeah.
A big wonder of the world, right? Although we know science can explain it, but it still makes me it still fascinates me how it all works. Right?
Yeah, it's really quite special. So, so if there's a way to kind of break this down, like, look, I think like prepaid, like we have a prepaid legal option. Prepaid legal from all different kinds of sources is an awesome option. And Blissness School is designed so that you can know what you're talking about, so that when you get to the prepaid space, you have more of a conversation and it's less like, now I have to go research what they said to try to remember to put it back together, and more like, okay, I know the questions that I have, I understand the framework, I'm ready to get the most out of this time with an attorney because I feel like empowered.
Wow.
So yeah.
Wow. So you're really breaking it down for the person, because unless you know the components of your business, you're really not going to be good enough for it, other than the craft that you're good at, which is, you know, if you own a coffee shop, you're going to be great at making coffee. And what I'm finding is a lot of business owners, they're only good at their craft. They, like you said, taxes, bookkeeping, there's so many components in running a business. And sometimes they take I've been in the insurance industry since 2008, and I've seen the good, the bad, and the ugly, and they take such a larger risk not knowing than knowing. And yes, education is power, but if you can't understand what you're being educated with, it's useless. So
yeah, no, it is. It really is.
Transforming it into such a simple, like you're breaking it down, it's super powerful, right?
Yeah, I think so. And it's fun, and right, like it can be very overwhelming when it's like you're jumping into the deep end of a pool and maybe have only like floated with like, you know, or played in like the kiddie pool for a while, and then suddenly you're in the deep end and there are hard deadlines and taxes are due, and again it's like, well, what kind of accounting method are you using? And you're like,
I don't know.
You know, I don't know, the first one, like just getting a sense of like, okay, like I said, these are the rules. They're not very complicated. You know, let's just take our time and work through it. And the other component about Blissness School that I love is that it has a community element. So somebody inevitably asks a question that like 5 other people wanted to ask, or like didn't quite know how to put the words together, or just didn't feel comfortable. And then they hear it and like, yeah, that's what I wanted to know. And it's like, well, I don't know unless you tell me. Like, I'm good, but I'm not a mind reader.
Right?
So it's helpful because I'm watching and witnessing in the group that there's like little pieces that will come, and then we'll see these aha moments pop, and then all starts to gel. And it's like, yeah, now you're getting it. Now you're not going to be blindsided and up all night freaking out because you don't know what you don't know.
Nope. So tell me about this group, and also tell us which states you're licensed to practice.
Yeah, so I am personally licensed to practice in California, Washington, and Oregon. But I work with attorneys, and we're kind of growing to other states. Texas, we have a lot of people in Austin that have asked for some help. So we have a Texas attorney, Colorado, and it's just kind of like popping up very organically and naturally. So I am personally licensed in 3 states. And part of Blissness School is we have an at-home study component for people that just want to download and watch it. And like, if you want to just sit there and binge watch for 6 hours, cool. We also have live components where we'll go through this stuff, because you can go through it a couple times and then it's like, oh yeah, okay, I see how it all flows together. I'm getting it now. But then you have questions, and in those live sessions, there's really awesome that's happening. I don't know how else to say it. And then we have Facebook Live groups where we interview different people. And I'm a business law attorney. I guess I should back up. Blissness School is really a place to learn about how to consciously engage with your life. Okay. When you're in business and you are constantly reacting, oh, I got a note from the Department, of Treasury. Oh, I got an IRS letter. I'm freaking out. That's one way to do it, and that's fine if you choose to do it that way. And if you like to live in the high stress, okay, I feel like I'm okay. Okay, where am I going? Yep. Then that's your option. But if you want to feel a little bit more steady and take it as it comes, and oh, I got this letter, not surprising, here we go. It just kind of makes it a little bit more calm. At the same time, we are offering ways to manage the ups and downs, like cleanses. We're in the midst of launching a cleanse, because consciously engaging with what you're putting in your mouth and noticing, okay, how does my body actually just react without my mind? How does my body react to dairy or gluten, right? It takes it out of that exercise of I'm not gluten intolerant, but you actually get to see, you know what, I feel better when I'm not eating gluten. It's an experiential opportunity, and it's a way to consciously engage. Or we have classes in Tai Chi and yoga, just different ways to engage with your body, because it's all the same. Whether you engage with your business or your child, right? If you can learn how to consciously get a handle on your words and your languaging, then you are really you're growing, right? Like you said earlier, every challenge is an opportunity for growth. And what we really hit on in Blissness School is that this idea of when you change the frequency of your reality, some people can think that's very new age. Mm-hmm. The way I interpret that is we all have states of being, right? Sometimes you can be in a state of joy. You can be in a state of depression. You can be in a state of anger, right? On and on, sadness, all this stuff. But when you consciously are in a state, the moments of joy, and you can string them together like you're beating a little necklace, then you have a frequency of moments of joy. And eventually you look back on your life and you're like, you know what? I had a joyful life. Yep. And that's just the frequency. We're just keeping a moment by moment track of how do I feel right now in my business, in my relationship, in my eating, on and on and on. That makes sense.
So I am smiling a lot because talking to a practicing attorney and hearing cleanse and hearing meditation, it's a total irony. Or more like an oxymoron, right? Like
Yeah.
it when you hear practicing attorney, you don't necessarily hear self-development, yoga, meditation, spirituality, um, cleansing, and having that having an engaged, more proactive life. Because I think most attorneys thrive because human as we are, we live proactive. I mean, reactively. We always get
Yeah,
in
that's how they make a lot of money. You get totally freaked
exactly.
out and you're like, yeah, take $20,000. I don't know what to do. Yeah, that's the game.
Or divorce. Like I heard James Sexton. Have you heard of him? He's
Mm-hmm.
a prominent divorce attorney in LA, and he just wrote a book called "If You're in My Office, It's Too Late." And I'm starting to see a lot of attorneys really disrupting the old way to practice law. And he does not. He calls a marriage technology, and it's a technology that has an 80% failure. And if you know the iPhone has 80% failure, would you buy it? He says. So he wants to educate people before they get married, because his whole mission is to put them out of business, which will never happen. He says maybe not in his lifetime, but like people like you and people like him. And because personally, I used to be so afraid of attorneys. And talking to you, you don't have any harm,
Hmm.
like spirit in you at all. And we've never even met. We've met here through social media, and immediately you just feel the lightness and the blissness, and you just embody that. And so I was in awe when I heard you say cleansing, what you put it in your body, things of that nature. So you truly will teach. And this is what Blissness School is all about. Your target market are business owners, to teach them the law, but you take them through the process of, hey, you are your business. You need to take care of your body. Because if you don't wake up tomorrow and you go to the hospital, your business ain't going to run by itself.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so this Blissness has grown, right? The kernel for me was the frustration that I saw all these people who are creatives, and women primarily, who get it, who get these inspirations and really want to put it out there into the world, but then feel that there's this invisible barrier, which is the law. And then some business attorney gets a hold of them and says, well, you have to fit into this box. But by their nature, they don't fit into that box.
They
Because
don't have a
that
box.
box wasn't made for them. So then there's this resistance, and eventually what I saw was that they would give up. And then the old story, I'm not good enough, I'm not good at business, I'm not good at math, whatever that story was, gets a hold of them again. And through my own meditation and through my own struggles, I had to overcome that and learn and practice, and know my life is what I create.
Amen. Mm-hmm.
Also, I want to say, like, when you said, like, oh, there's these new attorneys who are disrupting the old model, I actually think that the purpose of counsel, like old school, like tribal old school, like you read old Indian texts, right? All these rulers had a counselor who was there helping them reflect back, because we get blindsided by our stories, by what we think should happen, and we get pulled out of the moment. So to be a true counselor, to be able to really hold that space that is the spirit of the law, it is to empower individuals, not just a certain part of society. It is meant to, like, the law doesn't say, like, human beings, usually men, white men. No, that's not what it says. It's right. We have human inalienable rights. And I can tell you, as a business and IP lawyer, I have never seen in any of the codes a section that only relegates to a certain portion of our society. These are laws that are available to humans, which we all are. And so I think that we are seeing more people go way, way old school. And there are plenty of people who also just really like to fight and are very accustomed and comfortable in the litigation space.
Yeah.
And that's fine too, because it takes all kinds, you know, but I think the more people, doctors, lawyers, estheticians, I don't care who it is, the more people who can talk about the reality of consciousness and that you get to choose your own life path, the better. Because otherwise you have this falsity going out there that like you have a certain role to play, and if you step outside that role, you'll be punished. And I think that we're all kind of getting a little tired of that story.
Yeah. I think I don't know what it is, and I don't know where it came from. I'm guessing it came from the industrial age, and everything really took a shift with that age. Because if you look at the ancients, like you said, the old ancient texts and stuff, and if you really literally follow that, it's totally what you're doing right now.
It's about love. It's about, not, I mean, look, we're all human, and quite frankly, our resources are dwindling. So if we don't start banding together and like acknowledging how we can make the world better for each other, we only have so much ocean. We only have so much air. We have resources that go beyond financial resources that we need to really nourish and love. And as mothers in particular, to bring this back around, we get that. We're nurturing. And so it's our time.
Yes. Yeah. And during, so you're our 7th episode. And I've done 6 episodes before you, but on the 5th episode, because I re-listen to my episodes at the same day, but during the night when it gets quiet, and I start journaling, because there's some things that I don't catch, right? And the thing that was such a revelation for me after listening to the 5th episode was that, like how you're saying it right now, is that the world really needs a mother, the entire world. And whether you're talking about political stuff, you're talking about environmental stuff, you're talking about obesity, you're talking about people no longer believing in themselves and have no self-worth, you're talking about so many different things that is happening around the world. And after the 5th episode, I'm just like, oh my gosh, this podcast is going to be larger than life, because of the fact that we are learning straight from mothers. And mothering the world is such a great mission. And so that's like my new mission that came out, is that we mothers can put together and combine our superpowers, and we can all mother the world.
Absolutely. I mean, this is like an ancient Vedic scripture, right? It says that we're in the Kali Yuga time period. So there's like in the old scriptures, right? There's an imbalance. And there is sometimes it's personified as a bull, which always makes me laugh, because I feel like that's Wall Street. That's like that bull, right? Like that's what I think. But there is a little bit of an imbalance, and it's okay, but it's going to swing back, and it's birthing through these discussions, through us realizing like, no, we are very powerful beings, and we don't need to overpower. Like the word power, it's not something that's like controlling or dominating. Mm-hmm. It's actually very freeing and beautiful, and it has its own thrust, right? Its own propulsion that comes through us. The more we have these conversations, the more we're like, yeah, I'm going to do this work, and I'm going to do it in joy, so that there's a different feeling to it. It's not so like constricting, but it's really like, no, I love doing this. It's nourishing me. Mm-hmm. And the more people that get to see me nourished, the more people are like, I want what she, like in Harry Met Sally, there's that episode where, or that frame where Sally like has this orgasm, right? And then this woman says, I want what she's having, you know? And I just think of that, like the more we have these, the more we have these conversations and we're stoked about what we're doing and we're on mission and we're nurturing, right?
So awesome.
Unabashedly, right? And we're not censoring ourselves to fit into someone else's box, the more we're freeing other people to do the same, to say, you know what, I don't want to be a jerk in my business. I want to really move things forward. And I guess the other thing from like the legal part of my brain, it's happening on the legal landscape, right? We have this B corporation. So there's this triple bottom line that popped up, right? It's not really totally, it hasn't really been explored all the way through the IRS code, but it's there. Mm-hmm. And at the same time, we have our federal government that's kind of like dropping the ball in a lot of ways. So there's tax benefit to providing a public good. Mm-hmm. And that's like a very feminine, nurturing concept that we haven't really seen in the law before. And the viscosity of the law is very high. It changes very slowly. Like we're seeing with the Electoral College and the Second Amendment, like, oh, maybe we can do like an update, you know, like maybe it's time for a software update in some ways. So it's happening, and it's just the more we take a stand for what we want to see, the better, you're right, the better it is for everyone.
Absolutely. So you said you do a lot of self-development, yoga, meditation. Have you always done that, or did you start that journey after becoming a mom or during pregnancy?
So I've always been very engaged. I was a dancer and a ballerina when I was younger, and then I started in college years running. So I would run and be very active in triathlons and marathons, like very intense stuff. In law school, I was playing soccer and I tore my ACLs, and I was told you can't run anymore. And I got very depressed because I didn't get my adrenaline high, endorphin rush. Mm-hmm. And so that's the first time I've really experienced a no, you can't. Mm-hmm. Like if there was a challenge, I would just do it. So that is when I was introduced to meditation and yoga, because I could still stay active, but I didn't need to have that lateral reinforcements. Through yoga, which I became certified, I really practiced yoga all through law school, and continued to teach when I was, working at Adidas in the law department. And then I would go during lunchtime and teach yoga in the gym. And I thought, okay, well, this is maybe as balanced as it can get for me. But you mentioned it before, I've never seen a lawyer, you're kind of weird.
Yeah.
Right? And I noticed that. Because people, I was the one in law school that was like, hey, we're going to do yoga class. And people were pulling me aside in alleyways. What is yoga? It's you could just ask me in front of the whole class. So I was like, something's weird here, And so it was seen as too different, not linear enough. It was too, soft or something.
Two worlds, different worlds.
But it's really not. It's really not. And so I've always been very active in that space, and probably because that was my primary outlet during law school, it was, now that I think about it, that is probably what made Blissness School, because at some point I did them both so much, it just became normal. So I guess another example that I could say is that I would, in my private practice, talk to people and listen to them. Just talk to them as people, right? And just slow down. And instead of diagnosing, oh, well, you need an entity and you need to do this. And we have to get you fixed with this stuff, which I could do. I noticed that some people just would resist for whatever reason. And you had to go a little bit deeper. And you had to hear what struggles they were hitting. For example, this one woman I talked to, we worked together for almost a year, And I would tell her and send her memos and like be very clear, like you have to do this and then this, and we talk and nothing would change. And she wanted to take a stand in her business for freedom. And she had just gotten divorced, and she had said several times she wanted to travel the world. And I thought, oh, that's great. How's that going? And she would say, oh, well, I haven't really done anything with that yet because I have this house and I just feel like so attached to this house and I can't let go of it. And I was like, okay, you're taking a stand for like freedom, and yet you're allowing this burden to like keep you from achieving what you want. How can you take a stand for other people if you can't do it yourself?
Right.
And I think that that part of the humanity or the yoga of law, some attorneys miss because they're only looking for that upper level. They're not going a little bit deeper because we're just humans. Right? We're all just humans projecting out our fears. And so as a counselor, right, it's our job to reflect some of that back.
That's awesome. I love that you go deeper and really talk to them. And I always tell people this, that I became a really good connector only because when I talk to business owners, because anybody can sell them whatever I'm selling. But when I go talk to them, I ask them about the human behind the business. And because of that, it sets me apart from a sea of representatives that rep the same company. Mm-hmm. And people always send me business because I touch that deepness in them. You know how you touch that deepness in her wanting to travel the world? And that, you know, I wanted to also transition that, when you said, how can you take that stand for freedom and you are not doing it yourself? And I think a lot of parents do this too, where they tell their kids they could be whoever they want and they can achieve whatever they want in life, and then they're not showing. I think showing your children instead of telling your children is like the most powerful education you can ever provide them.
Absolutely. Amen.
So
amen.
It's so parallel to that. And I wanted to mention that because you said, like, how can you take a stand for what you believe and you're not doing it?
Yeah, I mean, I think you know, to kind of like to get a little bit deeper, right? We really are just projecting out and working out with other people. Right. In the Buddhist tradition, it's called like samskara, you know, or karma, right? Mm-hmm. These patterns that have come through lifetimes in that tradition. If you think about it, you've already lived many lifetimes, right? When you were 7 years old was different than when you were 14, was different than when you were in your 20s. And like, you look back and it's like, there are all these different people almost, right? It's like different lifetimes. But you carry through the story of like who you are, who you're supposed to be. And some of that stuff we need to shake off every once in a while. And I find through mothering, so much of that stuff that I thought I had shook off is like, it comes back, right? And it comes through what I say or how I act. And it's my biggest challenge because I'm being reflected back, and I'm a single mom, right? So I can't look at anyone else and be like, well, you did that. You know, like it's all me. When my daughter was prelingual. She was maybe like 1.5 years old, and she got a block at one point, and we were just kind of hanging out, and she took the block and she put it to her ear and she said, and acted out what I do. And I had no awareness, and like I'm turning red. It was so embarrassing for me because there was nowhere else she could have learned that behavior. And it was really a reminder for me, I got to put the phone down. Like at meal times or whenever that was, it was so patterned and ingrained in her already because of how I was behaving, not what I was saying. She just sucked it in. Wow. You know? But that's what we're all doing, you know? And then sometimes like no one tells you, how do you effectively manage another person like an employee? Like, that's not what a lawyer is ever going to be able to share with you, but it's so important to your business.
Mm-hmm.
And we do the same thing in different ways, right? We will project our anxieties about our business, right, inappropriately onto employees sometimes, but they don't always give it back in the same way. So gaining these insights and remaining aware of this human nature is really insightful.
Yeah.
And I think that that's a parallel to mothering and to parenting, right? Because, you know, when you even have a partner, right, there are things that you project onto your partner, and then it's like, oh, you know what? Just because you didn't take out the garbage, it wasn't you. It was all these other things that have happened. It just triggered, you know, this whole experience. And bringing some awareness to that is how you can kind of get a handle on your own life.
Yeah. It always starts with you, you know. Everything starts with you. And you said something about employees, and employees will always watch what you're doing. And you're the leader of the organization. So if you're the boss and the boss is doing the exact opposite what the boss just told us,
totally,
they're not going to respect you. Same way with your kids. They may not show you they don't respect you, but like you said, they suck that all in, whether you like it or not. So when you did this, I see a ring on your finger.
Yes.
Are you now engaged, married?
Yeah, I'm really happily single. When I was giving birth, I was broke. I had spent all my money moving around and seeing if it was going to work with her dad. And by the way, I have a great relationship with my daughter's father. I'm so grateful that he gave me her. And that's really it. There's really no more to that story. I'm so grateful for him. They have their own karma, and we're all cool. But at that time, I had like $100 in my bank account, and I spent $99 of it on this ring to remind me I am committed first to my daughter. Like, this was a conscious decision that I made, terrified. No support, no family, no money, no anything. And I jumped. And when she was 2 years old, I was able to afford this much fancier bling. And it just kind of put it on my other finger to remind me again, like, I am committed to my own growth, to my being a mother. And it's hard. It's really hard. Let me tell you, it's hard to be a business owner, and it's really hard to be a mother at the same time. Like, my daughter is home right now, and I'm constantly feeling like I'm either a bad business person or I'm a bad mother, right? Especially when she's here, and I can feel it, and I need to really practice, right? Knowing, like, no, I am me, and I am committed to being the best mother I can be. And part of that is being committed to being the best person that I can be, because they suck it in. Yep. So by me committing to my work and showing that we can travel, that we can be successful, that we can love people regardless of whatever, you know, whatever the story, I am being a good mother.
Absolutely. So you talk about your $100 after birth, and you bought that ring for $99. Tell me about, now by this time you have $1 left in your bank account. Tell me what that looks like, and how did you overcome that challenge, and what did you have to do to eat? Because obviously you only have $1 left in your bank account.
Yeah, this is called faith, right? There were moments over and over again, especially during that birth time, where I didn't have money to pay for, like, my doula, and I didn't have money to pay for food. And my pattern was to become terrified. And it was a very hard time for me because I had a child inside of me, and I was aware of this pattern of massive anxiety, and like it just felt I needed to practice at that time, which is what I now do in Blissness School. I teach people how to do this now. Knowing that when you have a calling or an impulse, even if it doesn't make any sense, right? Like at the moment, it makes no sense. I have not taken this ring off of my finger in 6 years, and it never will come off of my finger. And it has always represented to me this faith. And I didn't know that at the time. I just, it's like I went through the whole process of like, oh my God, what am I doing? And then like I walked out, and in that particular story, I walked out and I had this ring and I felt a little confused, and it was like almost instantaneously my phone rang and somebody hired me for like a quick little gig, and suddenly this $1 turned into three grand.
Wow.
And so there's so much you're not in control of, quite frankly, in your life. You're not.
Thank you. Yes.
And so, but you are in control of how you react. Mm-hmm. And you are in control of your fundamental belief system. And I had to learn, and I promote to other people, to fundamentally adopt a belief that there is a force in the universe that you can't see. It's not like a person. It's not someone you can like hug. There's a force that is always working for your highest state of happiness and joy.
Yeah. And when you say
my daughter.
Aw.
Thank you, sweetheart. I'm going to finish. Oh, thank you, baby. Thank you.
Aww. When you say that there's so much in the world you have no control over, that is actually where the power lies. That is power. Mm-hmm. And I think we think of power as controlling. Yeah. When you can be okay with, I can't control this. I have the tug that I have to do this, and I don't know what's going to happen, and I'm going to go ahead and do it anyways. Mm-hmm. I think for me, that is complete control.
So I call it future memory, right? Because we don't question what already happened. Like I don't question that we communicated and hopped. I don't question what I ate for breakfast or what happened when I was 21, that I got pregnant. That all happened. But that tug, right? The fantasy, I'd really love to start a business where I could talk about spirituality and the law and like really, really help people understand the power is in you, right? But as a lawyer, like we don't do that. Like that is not how it works, like if we can trust that there is this force always working to your highest state of enjoyment, and when you get these ideas that may seem illogical or weird, and trusting and taking that leap, I say that that's a part of you that is showing you what's going to happen. It's a future memory. And if you can trust, it's happening, like, I really want this beautiful car. Like every time I see it, I feel so enamored by it. And like, I can't stop thinking about it. Right. And then like, I own it, like it's actually mine. Like if we can get out of our own way,
yes,
this can happen a lot faster and easier. But we are trained, even though they had the best of intentions from our mothers and fathers and even, elders.
Yeah.
To tell yourself you can't. Mm-hmm. You can't do that. And you are taking a stand to say, no, you can. Yeah. And it's your birthright to do it. You were put here to be happy. And if that's going to make you happy, you're not hurting anyone else, obviously. Right? Because that's not true joy.
Yeah.
And do it.
Yes. You're speaking my language. And when you said your future memory, I actually call it, that's your future speaking to you.
Yeah.
It is. Because it's tugging, it's pulling you towards that energy. And if you don't follow that energy, I think as humans, we try to push it away and we try to go against it. When if you just go with it, it'll be so much less stressful. It seems stressful, right? Because $100 minus $99 for a ring does not make sense.
Right.
But it always makes sense in the end.
And I was a lawyer at that time, right? And we're not good with numbers, but like I was already licensed these days. I was an adult. I was 35, right? Like, and so there was a very pragmatic part of my life. And my birth story was really pulling me out of that linear reality and inviting me into the play, the lila that's called in like, you know, Sanskrit of like, in Zen, it's the I don't know mind, right? If you can approach each moment as though you were like on vacation, right? Like, oh, look at this. It's a beautiful thing, you know, like it's sitting right here. The story in Zen, it's almost like if you were walking down a path and you'd walked it a million times, you may not notice all of these treasures, right? Flowers and, you know, creatures, you know, kind of really all around you. But if you can embrace every moment with a sense of wonder and curiosity, then the gifts that are lying right there at your feet become more apparent. Yep. And you can take a sharp turn.
Yep.
And discover like, whoa, all this stuff that it's even better than I could have thought.
Yes.
Is there. And now it's my reality. And so it takes some practice. It definitely takes some practice.
He's already passed, but do you follow Wayne Dyer?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he studies the Tao methodologies and all that, which, you know, they're all parallel, like the spiritual studies. But I love his style, and, you know, unfortunately he's passed, but he's left so much content about it. And
I just was in Maui with his teacher from Harvard, Ram Dass, who's my teacher, and he accumulates all these incredible human beings. We had Bob Thurman, who is like one of the world's foremost Buddhist scholars out of Columbia University right now, and, you know, Roshi Joan Halifax. We had just like a killer lineup this year. Some are Buddhist, some are like more Hindu, like influenced, and there's a rift, right? Because there's like a playful rift sometimes also playful, because there's this like kind of my way is the right way.
Right.
But really, when you boil it all down, all there really is love. Mm-hmm. And when you can love your life, you are giving love to everyone around you, your children, the people that you work with, the people who tune in, you know? And so it's really cracking that code and accepting that you are not only worthy, but you are needed and you are here to enjoy. That's really, I mean, this is the party. This is it. Like, we made it. We're humans. Like, we have iPhones, you know? Like, we have the internet. Like, it's time.
So tell me, why did you go to Maui? What was in Maui? And you talked about Wayne Dyer's teacher and a lot of amazing people.
Yeah, so twice a year, my daughter and I go to Maui to spend time with Ram Dass. Ram Dass got his name when he was traveling through India. Before that, his name was Richard Alpert, and he was the youngest professor at both Stanford and Harvard at the time. He was a psychology professor. And he kind of became famous because him and Timothy Leary started experimenting with LSD. So they were experimenting with different ways of being back then. Now, we don't need to take drugs, right? Because we have these teachings that they have all now written plenty of books, Wayne Dyer, right? Deepak Chopra, like we have all of these different, the list goes on and on, of people who have shown that you can break out of the story.
Hi. What's your daughter's name?
Sita. My daughter's name is Sita.
Sita. Hi, Sita.
Just to make it.
What's yours?
No,
Cute.
Do that now. I'm asking you to do it now. It's a 10.
Is not here.
It's a 10.
Megan is not here.
Okay. And this is kind of what happens when you're a mom.
Absolutely. Mine are still in school. We'll have time to pick them up soon.
Yeah. So basically, the reason why we go is to just be in the same space, really, as people who completely embody this, what we're talking about.
Wow.
Right? They completely embody it, which is a really beautiful opportunity to witness what we can do as humans.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
It's always
Right.
like nice to surround yourself with amazing people, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Sita, your daughter.
Yes.
What is you talk about let's see, a lot of lessons she taught you. What are the top 3 lessons that she taught you?
I mean, I feel like a terrible mom right now. Sita, the top 3 lessons, oh my gosh, there are so many. Sita has taught me to enjoy life a lot more, to take a break from working every once in a while. Even though I love what I do, it's also important to just go and explore. Sita has shown me a level of utter love and devotion and respect that I have never experienced before. It's just, it hasn't been possible. And really, when I birthed Sita, it was terrifying. It was a terrifying experience. And really this, right, the rings, it's kind of what she represents to me. Like, here's the truth. We don't know how much longer we have with each other. And I know that Sita is constantly growing, and one day she's not going to want to run in and say hi to me, right? Because it's not going to be cool. She's going to have other things to do. So really having the opportunity to embrace the moment just as it is, even though I have bills and lists of to-dos and I'm creating this new business and I'm talking to you, coming and being into that space, it's like a constant lesson that keeps, right? It doesn't end. Like, I'm constantly learning from her.
Right. That's awesome. Well, I'm going to ask you my last question. Before we finish the podcast. So at the end of your life, towards the end of your life, you're on your deathbed and you've accomplished everything you've ever wanted. You have left no stones unturned. You killed it in life. Your kid or your daughter asks you this last question. Mom, what are the top 3 things you're proud of accomplishing as a mother? What would those 3 things be?
That is a really good question, because I am not there yet. I think that for me, embracing being a single mother has been a huge accomplishment. That was a massive, massive personal achievement, because I had subliminally and subconsciously been told, and quite frankly, very straight, been told, you need to have a man to take care of you. And so that, like, if I didn't have Sita, I don't know if I would be doing all that I'm doing. Mm-hmm. I would be pulling back more in life. Mm-hmm. But I don't have a choice. Mm-hmm. I have to, and it's not like I have to kill myself. I have to take risks, mm-hmm. like putting out Blissness School, because I want the world to be a better place when I'm gone. Mm-hmm. I think with Sita, having the joy that I get in life is so much more exponential, because I've always been single. And now I have a partner. This is the longest relationship I've ever had, right? Honestly. And so when we go walk in the woods or on the ocean and we pick up garbage, like I would do that anyway. But doing it and knowing that I'm being witnessed and that she is now holding that as a value, and I know that when I'm gone, she will share that value with her children, is a tremendous accomplishment, because the reality of the moment that we share with each other is the experience of the love. When we're gone, that love doesn't go anywhere.
True.
And so, so really having the opportunity to show her and be this example and share incredible teachers like Ram Dass and, you know, everyone, we travel the world together, and that's been a massive accomplishment.
Wow. That's a lot, and a lot of good. Where can people find you? How can people get a hold of you, or where can they find you on social media, and where do you usually hang out, which platform?
So everyone is invited to go to our Facebook page. That, if you can see it, that's the logo behind me. It's just two intersected open hearts, right, with almost like a book in the middle. So you can look for Blissness School, and you should just be able to see that. You can also go to Blissness School, so it's like business, but you take the busy out and put bliss in. So blissnessschool.com, and that's our website. And anyone can email me. This is a lot of S's. It's funny. There's 7 S's for the 7th episode, right? Melissa with 2 S's at blissnessschool.com. So those are great ways to find me. And then maybe we can put a link in this.
Yep, I always do.
Page and have that. If somebody is looking for legal advice, you can just also look for law offices of Melissa B. Jaffe, Jaffe, and you can find me online.
So if you're in California, Oregon, and Washington, which, by the way, Oregon, I'm on the border of Oregon, Washington, Portland, and Vancouver, Washington. So if you're in those 3 states, she can help.
Yes, and because I am federally certified and I practice intellectual property law, I actually help people around the world figure out their IP strategies. So how do we protect trademarks? How do we use them? What is this idea of licensing or franchising? So it's kind of, if those are your questions, or if you have business development questions, I'm happy to help out. Yeah.
So one last thing. What is your definition of mother hustler?
Being a single mom, I just so resonated when I heard mother hustler, because, well, I'm saying it right now. Do you want to come over here?
I can hear it from here.
So it's really this. It's really this, right? Like you gotta do both, and doing it both with compassion and heart is different. A lot of times hustlers have this connotation of like pulling something on you, or like working so hard and being able to like hustle all the time. You got to be on it. And it's true. As a single mom, I have learned you've always kind of got to be available for your business. And also you've got to be able to have compassion for yourself, to know, like, you know, you're not going to get every single win. And knowing that when people do say no, or when it's not a fit, like you send them off with as much love. Like if it wasn't a good fit for me, then may you go find the exact right person for you. And I wish you the